Welcome to Scottsboro CP Church. It's the fourth week of Advent, which means we're looking at our final gospel as we walk through one gospel each week, connecting it to the themes of Advent. This week is the Gospel of John, and our theme is love. For inspiration this morning, we're looking to John chapter 15, verses 9 through 17. Hear now the word of God. As the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. Now remain in my love. If you keep my commands, you will remain in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commands and remain in his love. I have told you this so that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be complete. My command is this: love each other as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. If you are my friends, if you do what I command. I no longer call you servants, because a servant does not know his master's business. Instead, I have called you friends. For everything that I have learned from my Father, I have made known to you. You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you so that you might go and bear fruit that will last, and so that whatever you ask in my name, the Father will give you. This is my command: love each other. This is the word of God for us, the people of God. Thanks be to God. Love each other as I have loved you. It's the hinge of this whole section, and this section might be the hinge of John's entire gospel. In John, everything turns around this: love each other as I have loved you. Now, if you read the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke, you'll find Jesus makes all kinds of commands. Pray this way, forgive your enemies, give to those who ask, cast out demons. Jesus makes all kinds of commands. But in the Gospel of John, John clears away a lot of that other stuff. And he's not getting rid of it. He's not disagreeing with it. He wants to make a specific point, and he doesn't want any distractions. Here in John 15, Jesus says, my command, singular, my command is this: love each other as I have loved you. Love each other. It makes sense. Love who? Love each other. In what way? As Jesus commands. Elsewhere, Jesus will command us to love our enemy, and the church is supposed to love the world. We're supposed to do 12 different kinds of love, but the bedrock command in the Gospel of John isn't any of those. It's to love each other. Which each other? It's us, your family of faith. This all starts with us loving each other. When Jesus gives this command, it's him sitting in a room with his 12 disciples, and he looks at them and he says, friends, love each other. Love each other as I have loved you. And it's an important reminder. When Jesus argues with the religious leaders of the time, it's not that all of their commands aren't important. He doesn't tell them keeping the Sabbath doesn't matter, or tithing, it doesn't matter. He tells them, what does any of that matter if you forget the foundation, if you forget to love each other? Who cares if you rest on Sunday if you don't come out of that rest with the energy, with the desire to love? And who cares if you give 10% or 20% of your income if the way you're making that money is destroying love? And he says, who cares if you are being loving and supporting of whatever cause or whatever party or whatever, if you don't love each other? So love each other. Everything around this in the section of John, it circles this command. It builds on it. It amplifies it. Love each other. Love each other as Christ has loved us. And we all agree with that, I think. No one is especially surprised by this command, love each other. I doubt anyone is going to stand up and say, listen, Pastor, I think you've misunderstood it all. That's not what Jesus means here. But if no one disagrees, if this makes sense, then what are we waiting for? Love each other as I have loved you. Jesus says it, so the source is unimpeachable. And in case we aren't sure what love is, Jesus explains, do what I've been doing. Love each other as I have loved you. Just do what I've done. There's not a ton of ambiguity there. So what are we waiting for? Speaking for myself, if you ask whether I agree with this, I'd say, of course I agree with that. But if you looked at how I live, what my actions say, I believe, might be something closer to love others in the same way they have loved me. Or love others to the degree that I am feeling filled up with Jesus' love. On our worst days, we want to flip this command around so it reads, others should love me as Jesus has loved them. We want to wield it as a command of accountability, demanding others' love for us as Jesus has loved them, or we think we've done our time loving. We've done our time in the church. Now we expect others to do their time loving the church. Don't they know what Jesus said? That they should love as Jesus has loved them? But those are all deflections. And they reveal that as much as we want to say we agree with this, love each other as I have loved you, our actions, they suggest we believe something else. These are all ways of waiting to live this command. Love each other. Yeah, I'm going to. I'm going to once they love me. Once I'm doing a little better, then I'm going to. Or I've done my loving. Now it's someone else's turn. I'm just taking care of me right now. It's someone else's turn to step up and do some loving. Waiting. Right now I'm waiting, which feels right because this is Advent. And Advent is all about waiting. Except it's not supposed to be about waiting to love until Jesus shows up. So we tell ourselves we're just waiting a bit before we get out there and start loving, waiting a bit before we deliver that chicken noodle soup to our neighbor with COVID, waiting a bit before we send a card to someone we know is lonely. We're just waiting a bit before we forgive, waiting a bit before we step up to help, waiting a bit because we have loved and we're tired. We're just waiting a bit. There's a really close connection between this section, love each other, and the section before it, this parable Jesus tells. And they're actually part of the same speech. But Jesus makes the connection even tighter with this line he repeats in both, remain in my love. Just strange. Part of the point here is that John is clearing away extra stuff to focus on this command. Love each other as I have loved you. My command, singular. But here, right before it, repeated twice, is this other command. Remain in my love. Remain in me. It's this connecting line, tugging us backward to the parable. And it's the parable of the vine and the branches. Jesus is the vine, and we are the branches. And if we want to bear fruit, we must remain connected to the vine. We must remain in Jesus. And if we disconnect, then we will wither. There won't be fruit. And the reason Jesus puts these commands on top of each other, to love each other and to remain in him, is because they can't be separated. They can't be separated. Jesus tells us to remain in him, stay connected to the vine. It's what nourishes us. It's how we bear fruit. It's how we grow with God. And how do we remain in him? By keeping his command. By loving each other. Jesus ties these together in such a way that we're not allowed to pull them apart. There is no option for being a Christian without loving each other. It's not an option. It's not a possibility. Because we cannot be Christ followers without being in God, and we cannot be in God without loving each other. And in the other direction, if we want to love each other, to truly love each other, well, the only way to do that is to be connected to the source of all love, to Jesus. It's the only way. These two are intertwined in a way that they cannot be disconnected. And in this section, Jesus is not talking to outsiders. He's not talking to people outside the church demanding that they love others. He's talking to his disciples, to people who follow Jesus. They have chosen him. Here he is saying goodbye. He's getting ready to die, to ascend into heaven. And once he ascends, the disciples will be waiting for him to return. And we share in that waiting. Through Advent, we wait for the Christ child to be born. And beyond that, we wait. We wait for Jesus to return. Advent is all about waiting. And there are different kinds of waiting. Most of our waiting, I guess, is just ordinary. It doesn't mean very much. I put coffee on the coffee pot in the morning and I hit start and I wait for it to brew. Or waiting for a taxi, something I remember from my time when I lived in big cities. That's usually pretty ordinary unless someone tries to take the taxi from you. And there's waiting for the new school year to start, and I remember buying new clothes before school started and having to wait to wear them because my mom knew I would ruin them if I wore them in advance. But what does it mean to wait for the Lord? It's more like waiting for a certain person, for a woman or a man, where you see this person walking and talking with friends, but one day you take note differently than before. They came to talk to you, or maybe they smiled at you, but something inside you knew that you had been acknowledged, and with great care of the rhythm and grace of a ballet, you eat together, you prepare meals together, you're silent together. You share stories of time gone by, of good times and the things that make you afraid, and soon your worlds begin to revolve around the other. The one for whom you have waited with such longing, such expectation. Maybe our waiting for the Lord is a little more like this waiting for another. Or maybe more like waiting for astonishing news that a snowstorm has closed all the offices, all the schools and the stores, and we come alive with new possibilities of things to be done that day. Or a vaccine has been discovered and approved, and we find ourselves waiting on its arrival, waiting on our turn and all the things that will open to us. We imagine it all, and we list it, and we prioritize everything that we've been waiting on. In some ways, waiting for Christmas is like waiting for the Lord. It has some of the elements of the other waiting. It's like waiting for coffee to brew because we've been through Christmas before, the same rituals, the same traditions. It's like waiting to wear new clothes before school, to start fresh, to start something new. It's like waiting for a snowstorm, something that can change the course of the ordinary. It's like waiting for the vaccine to arrive. It's like waiting for the one you love, expectant and hopeful. To wait for the Lord. It's quite literally what Christmas is all about. Waiting for the Christ child to be born. We wait for the Lord who was before I began to be, who knows the world from its beginning and is not afraid of its great size and empty places. We wait for the Lord whose love is lasting. We wait for the Lord, our soul thirsts for the Lord, and in his word we hope. We wait. But in the waiting, we pursue God. First of all, by loving each other. It's how we wait. As Christians, it's how we wait. It's how we prepare our hearts and our homes, by loving each other. Jesus said he came not to serve, but to be served. So how are we going to be ready for his return unless we serve each other? Jesus came to forgive, not to demand forgiveness, not hold a grudge. How will we be ready unless we forgive? He came to feed and not to be fed. He came to heal, to visit, and to set free. And it seems so basic, so simple, but it's not. Love each other as I have loved you. It's how we wait for the Lord to arrive. It's how we wait for the Lord to return. It's how we wait for the world to change. It's not a command to like each other. It's a command to love. And it's not a command to think about each other. It's a command to love. And it's not a command to love in the way we each think of love. It's a command to love as Jesus has loved us. Jesus presses us to reconceptualize the way we think of love. It's a command to love as Jesus has loved us. And not to love in a way that's connected to any kind of feeling. That thing people say, the first time I met her, I could just feel it. Or when I'm around them, I feel like I could do anything. I feel like I want to be a better person. This passage does not mention feeling once. We are commanded to love each other. This is how we are to pursue God. It's how we wait for Christ's return. It's how we remain connected to Jesus. It's how we remain in him while we're waiting for him to arrive. In the waiting, we love each other. In fact, it's the loving each other that gets us through the waiting. And so this Christmas, we ask ourselves, as Christ challenged those long ago, what good is it if our houses are decorated, if they are not filled with love? What good is it if our tree stands tall and the gifts are wrapped, if we have not shared this love? It's how we wait. It's how we prepare our homes. So deliver the chicken noodle soup to your neighbor with COVID and write the card and forgive the person and let them know that you forgave them. Find a way to serve. Make a donation to someone in need. Make it an extravagant donation. Be a mobile Christmas caroling team outside people's front doors. Love each other as he has loved you. Love each other as he has loved you. This Advent, the only question that's left is, what are we waiting for?